Oh, I see it is streaming live, so I'll just get started with. I'll just get started. Yep. Okay. Thank you kindly. It's 9:01, and I'm going to call the meeting for May 4th, 2020 to order. And in response to COVID-19, we continue to hold our meetings electronically. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting of council by accessing the meeting, which will be live streamed on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel. There are no additions to the agenda. I'll look for disclosures of pecuniary interest. And I have Councillor Scott. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I have just from there. I'm just looking for which one it is here. 6.2. 6.2. Yes, yeah. I've let the clerk know by email, and anyway, so I'd like to declare that this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we can move to delegations. I would like to welcome Sarah Savoy. She's the County Accessibility Coordinator, and she's going to present the joint multi-year accessibility plan from 2022 to 27 for our learning pleasure. Good morning, Sarah. The floor is yours if you'd like to make your presentation.
Good, thank you. And yes, let me just pull it up. Sorry, one moment.
That's okay.
Okay. There we go. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, perfectly.
All right, thank you so much for having me. My name is Sarah Savoy. I am the County Accessibility Coordinator, and I am here to present on the Joint Multi-Year Accessibility Plan and the Joint Annual Status Report. So first, I just wanted to put a little bit of information about myself and what my role is. And so as the accessibility coordinator, I'm mostly responsible for looking after accessibility in Middlesex County, and I collaborate with all local municipal partners on accessibility projects. I also help with providing consultation on accessibility related projects and initiatives. I oversee the implementation of accessibility standards for the corporation, as well as providing ongoing accessibility training. I identify accessibility issues, needs, resources, and opportunities for integrated accessibility planning to ensure the best practices are being implemented. And I also act as the main point of contact for accessibility related concerns across the county. So if anyone ever has any questions or concerns, please do email me or call me, whichever is easier. And I'm always happy to be available to anybody who wants to discuss things relating to accessibility. So the first item I'll be talking about is the Joint Multi-Year Accessibility Plan. So per the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act and the Integrated Accessibility Standards Regulation, all designated public sector organizations are required to establish, implement, maintain, and document a multi-year accessibility plan. It's supposed to outline how the organization is going to identify, prevent, and remove barriers and meet the requirements of the IASR. It also requires that the plans are readily available online and in accessible format. As well, they should be reviewed and updated at least once every 5 years. As new standards get introduced, we do have to sometimes review and update them throughout those 5 years. For example, there may be 2 new standards that are going to get introduced at some point in time, at least that's what I'm hoping, on healthcare and education, which would be required that we then look at the compliance requirements under those standards and see if any of them are applicable to the county and the local municipal partners, and then we would incorporate new sections based on that. So much like the previous multi-year accessibility plan, we collaborated on this again. So the local municipal partners were required to fill in their sections for the plan and provide details on progress made under the plan for the joint annual accessibility status reports. The integrated accessibility standards legislation supports the formation of a plan whereby an upper tier municipality and any lower tier municipalities may form together to prepare a joint plan. So it's nice because it allows us to create a collaborative effort between the local municipal partners in the county. And it also allows us to keep up to date on the projects that everybody's working on. And then the Middlesex Accessibility Advisory Committee was consulted during the formation of the plan. So there was a survey done so that we could ensure that members of the public and people with disabilities were able to consult as well. Questions included things like barrier-free inclusive customer service, support animals and support person, the feedback process, accessible formats and communication support requests, accessibility of the website, ensuring barrier-free recruitment and application process for jobs, access to public spaces and accessible parking, municipally owned facilities and accessibility, and providing barrier-free transportation. The survey was designed to allow people to respond from all across the county, including the local municipal partners. So you could identify which municipality you were where you were located in the survey. So some of the responses, there was 30 responses with 30% being people with disabilities. They came from a variety of municipalities. The county of Middlesex Center was actually the majority of the respondents. Age respondents ranged from 21 years to 66 plus. And some of the recommendations were made that for permits, we need to make sure the area that it is used in is accessible. We need more adult changing tables and wheelchair options and accessibility. Language on websites needs to be made more inclusive in some areas. Parking could sometimes use some maintenance. There were some issues about potholes and the entrance and not having an accessible entrance. If it was a staircase, for example, some people would not be able to access it. When upgrades are made to the path of travel or roads, minimize the use of gravel surface. That was an interesting recommendation. Allow payments to be made with cash, Visa, debit, and credit cards. This is specific to the transportation, the Middlesex County Connect, and make the bus schedule more clear for residents and improve the advertisement of services. So those two I know for sure they are working on, which is fantastic. So the plan was drafted in a collaborative effort, and it basically talks about the accomplishments from the last 5 years, as well as what we'll be doing for the next 5 years. And the plan attached has obtained Middlesex County Council approval, and it has been sent to all local municipal partners to be adopted by their respective councils. It must be posted on the county and local municipal partners' websites, and it will act as a roadmap for accessibility initiatives taking place over the next 5 years. Obviously, it's more of a general overview because you can't necessarily get into all the specifics. There are probably more projects that will come up as we go. But that being said, Middlesex Center is super comprehensive. It's very great. And so I'm very excited to see how it's going to play out over the next 5 years. Just a little more details about the plan. It has a detailed introduction that includes a message from the chair of the Middlesex Accessibility Advisory Committee. So this was a great incorporation in the plan to show that we have the support of the Middlesex Accessibility Advisory Committee. We also have an executive summary, which is new to the plan, and a statement of commitment, which is a requirement under the Iasr. The Middlesex County's previous joint multi-year accessibility plan was outlined, and the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act was also detailed in terms of providing some information as to why we have to make these types of plans. And we also provided information on both the Middlesex Accessibility Advisory Committee and my role to distinguish what our roles were. There was some concern that people were reaching out to members of the advisory committee. This was in Elgin County, but I thought it would be good to apply it in Middlesex County as well, where they were asking questions that really should have been directed towards the accessibility coordinator role. So it was really just intended to provide the public with some better idea as to which person to reach out to when you have a concern. The plan coordination and implementation and accountability, evaluating, reporting, and compliance is also included. And there is an overview of the Iasr requirements. So the Iasr requirements include general requirements, information and communication, employment, transportation, design of public spaces, and customer service. In order to meet the requirements, everyone included a section on the above and outlined their progress made, goals, and timelines set out for the next 5 years. The plan also supports the province's goal of making Ontario fully accessible by 2025. And it basically also includes a section on communication, feedback, and contact information if anyone wants to reach out about it. And it also has an appendix that has the accessible maintenance procedure and temporary service disruptions, which are also required by the IASR to be included. And we do make note that the plan is available in accessible formats with communication supports upon request, but I made sure that the plan was in accessible format prior to sending it out to everybody. This would be in special circumstances where someone might need a different type of format. So that's it on the joint multi-year accessibility plan. The next thing I'll talk about is the annual status report. So as part of the requirement, because we have the joint multi-year accessibility plan, we also have to do annual status reports on it. The status report includes information on continuous achievements in accessibility and accessibility highlights. So it is a requirement under the IASR, just like the plan is. So we did do this collaboratively, and we also must post these on the county and local municipal partners websites as well. Since the multi-year accessibility plan is a joint effort, this will be a joint effort for the next 5 years. And if we renew the plan collaboratively, it will continue to be a joint effort. And so it is my responsibility to put together the report, and the local municipal partners will send information for their sections of the report. So the report for 2021 required to be communicated and collaborated with between the county and the local partners. It was taken to the Middlesex Accessibility Advisory Committee for approval and feedback, and then it was, following that, approved by Middlesex County Council. The report has now been sent to all local municipal councils to be received and posted online. And as outlined, we will continue to identify, remove, and prevent barriers for people with disabilities. So I did include some of the highlights. Now, this is also located in the plan itself, but I did want to point out that Middlesex Center does have a great list of highlights that we have included in the plan, some accomplishments that have taken place across Middlesex Center, which included the creation of an age-friendly community action plan, which I did get to collaborate on, and it looks fantastic, so that's extremely exciting. Off-street parking renovations of play structures, removal of non-standard sidewalks and replace it with AODA compliant sidewalks, expansion of the sidewalk network, reviewing Rick Hansen designation app. I know I will also be involved in this project, and that's another very exciting thing for the community. And it just means that those buildings go above and beyond with respects to accessibility. Installation of accessible washrooms, creation of a municipal diversity and inclusion policy. That's also very exciting to hear. AODA compliant notice templates for public planning meetings, delivery of services through electronic and remote means, ongoing enhancements to electronic council meetings. They also provided AODA legislation customer service training for all staff, and completion of an AODA compliance audit in 2020 to 2021, and compliance was achieved. So that is it with respects to my presentation, and I'm of course happy to take any feedback or any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I'll look to council. There's a lot in there, and I'm sure I'll see a hand here or there. Yes, I'll start with Councillor Heffernan, and I see your hand, Deputy Mayor.
Through Mayor DeVito to Sarah, just can you give me an example, or give all of us an example of the accessibility opportunities on the website?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair to members of council. Yes, so with respects to accessibility on the website, do you mean more so what requirements are needed to be made, or what requirements have been met in terms of revising the website, or are you specifically referring to the person who gave feedback with respect to the need for more inclusive language?
Yeah, I'm just curious because it's something that like, you know, the AODA, like the sidewalks and that are obvious. I'm just wondering what is being done on a website that makes it compliant for accessibility.
Absolutely. So the website, it's also a requirement under the IASR. So the IASR does outline the section in the information and communication section. And under that, it is required that we follow the WCAG, which is the Web Accessibility no, sorry, I'm going to get the abbreviation wrong. I always refer to it as WCAG. So it is a WCAG 2.0 level AA. So basically there is the W3 school has put together some web requirements, and that's the title of what it is referred to as. And under that, it indicates all of the different requirements that we have to meet for websites. So for example, you have to make sure the color contrast is good so it's visible to all users. We have to make sure that we use appropriate headings and that links are navigated to remain on the same page. Things like that are more accessible for people with screen readers. We have to consider the type of language that we are using. We want it to be simple and plain language. We also want to make sure that the font we are using is accessible, and that's helpful for people who have certain disabilities such as dyslexia to make it easier to navigate. One of the things I even caught myself doing that I hadn't realized at the time wasn't accessible, and so of course I'm always learning myself, is you shouldn't capitalize the entire word. The exception to that, of course, is abbreviation. But the reason for this is when people are using screen readers, it's sometimes hard to distinguish the letters from one another. So it's better that you just spell the words out without capitalizing the entire word. So sometimes in reports, I would be capitalizing the headings, and that's actually not best practice. So those are another thing that you have to keep in mind when you're doing website accessibility work. There's a lot of very detailed things. So we have looked into, currently Middlesex County actually provides Site Improve as a software you can use to screen the website to see where the issues are, and then you can mitigate them. There are, of course, some issues that can't be mitigated because they are built into the platform. The best example of that is ARIA tags. And I don't know enough about them to talk about what they are exactly, but I just know that they are something that can't always be fixed. And that being said, though, Middlesex Center did have their website, I believe, redone. I couldn't tell you the exact date, but I know that it's been redone. In fact, all of the local municipal partners' websites has been redone, and the County of Middlesex just recently launched theirs. So that's very exciting to be in compliant with the WCAG 2.0 level AA standards. And that was something that Northern Co had to adhere to when they were creating and putting the websites together. So it's been a very lengthy process, but it's also been well worth it because of all the different things that we can do to make it better so that people with disabilities have full access. Hopefully that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you very much. I just learned a lot. I'm probably staring right at it. Don't even know the changes that are made, but okay. Thanks a lot, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll go to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just to reinforce Sarah's comment about if people have questions or concerns that they should go to her, we set as an advisory committee. So we simply advise on projects. We look for things that maybe are missing, but Sarah is the expert in the accessibility plans and everything. So please, if anyone does have questions, reach out to her. She's probably 100 times more likely to have the correct answer as the wrong answer. But as I mentioned before the meeting, Sarah's very thorough and does a really good job for us. So as chairman of the committee, we're certainly happy to have her on board with us. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah.
Sorry, I was just saying thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? Well, I'll just add a comment then too. Is this work is really, it's very practical, and it's heartwarming to see that we're actually thinking about how to include everyone and make everyone able to participate and live to their full potential. I can't imagine, and I echoed Councillor Heffernan's comment. I just learned in a minute a ton of stuff that it's so easy to assume. And I think taking this accessibility lens and integrating it into our thinking is key. We want to make sure that all of our residents have an opportunity to participate and to whatever extent they want, whenever they want, without restrictions. So I'll thank you for your work. It's very important, and we appreciate your presentation. And I'll just say thanks also to our Deputy Mayor for chairing that committee and being part of the work that leading part of the work that needs to be done. So onward and upward. Keep doing what you're doing. This is really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All righty then. We do have another delegation or presentation today, and that is the Master Fire Plan. Isaac Comandante is going to be providing a presentation, and or maybe Jeff Carlisle.
Yeah, we have Jeff Carlisle from Bear Consulting, Madam Mayor, and he's ready to go.
Okay, wrong introduction. The floor is yours, Jeff. Go ahead.
Morning, Madam Mayor and Council. I hope everybody's doing well today.
Thank you.
So I'm going to share my screen here, and hopefully the technology will work. Can you confirm that you see my presentation?
We have it now. Go ahead. Yep, it's clear.
Okay.
There.
So today, this morning, what I'd like to do is just give you Council a quick overview of this project. We were very happy to be a successful proponent in your RFP process to conduct a risk assessment of the county and the fire services master plan that dovetails into that. So the first thing I'm going to show you is our team profile. We're a Calgary-based consultancy company. We have over 450 years of combined frontline leadership and consultative experience. And members of our team, we've worked on projects from everything from a metropolitan area like the city of Calgary, right through to a small community of 500 people. And it's typically the fire master plans, fire risk assessments. We do all kinds of workshops and other projects, citing fire stations, those types of things. The team, Isaac Comandante, he is the Vice President of Emergency and Response Consulting. He's actually monitoring this. He's had computer issues this morning, and so he's listening to the presentation. Then there's myself, and you can see our team members, GIS experts and emergency response and management experts, along with former city manager, and we have quite a extensive team. We have Monique Belair, who is currently the fire chief in Belleville, as one of our team members to help us with this, and in particular from the context of the province of Ontario and some of the regulations with the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. So that's the team that will be conducting this review. And the purpose of the project, the Ontario Fire Marshal has issued a directive regarding community fire risk assessments, and there's 9 criteria that are identified. It's quite extensive, in particular, the lightweight construction, which I believe was a result of 2 line of duty deaths of firefighters in Southern Ontario. And what they want to do is ensure that all the communities in Ontario have a really good understanding of what their structural risk is, to quantify it as much as possible, and to parallel that with the levels of service that ultimately Mayor and Council sets the level of service as an authority having jurisdiction. So the objective of the master plan is to conduct a complete review of your fire services and look at your growth, what's happening in the county over the next 5-10 years, and look at things like technology, operational functions, departmental communication, partnerships with mutual aid with adjacent municipalities. And I know you have some contracts on the fire prevention side. We've already started doing some interviews and survey with your firefighters. So we do have, we're just scratching the surface at this point in the project in understanding how the fire service works in the county. So this is just a simple risk assessment matrix that we use, and really what it looks at is what are to the extent possible, to quantify risk in a meaningful way so that you can set service levels, and you look at probability and consequence. So what's the probability that an event occur, and what's the consequence? So you could look at it, say, for example, a major hazardous material or dangerous goods spill in the county. Well, that is I'm just using an example, would probably be a low probability event. But the consequence of that event could be very extreme, evacuating the whole county or some of the community centers, the life risk, the environmental risk. So those are the types of things that we look at to quantify the risk of events that are going to occur. Okay, and the master plan is a systematic and comprehensive approach to evaluate the current response capabilities, to mitigate risk, and assist in formulating, communicating strategic direction for the fire service. So really, it's a roadmap, and we would identify what are the core services and to what level do you need to deliver those services based on the risk. And as I said, the community risk assessment will be done in accordance with the Ontario Fire Marshal's regulation and the 9 mandatory profiles. We're going to look at different ways to deliver the service. You know, there's right across the country, each fire service is different. You know, for example, in British Columbia, they have municipalities have adopted a playbook which identifies 4 levels of service: interior, exterior, or three levels of service: interior, exterior, and full service. So each one of those has a training component and an operational profile. Exterior service means you don't go into a burning building because you don't have the staffing or the training or the equipment to do that. So that's just an example of some of the things that we will look at in terms of what are those critical services that you need to have, and match them to the risk as possible. And we'll review all your current programs and services. We'll look at the core functions, as I was talking about, your administration, leadership, fire prevention, public education, training, fire suppression. We'll look at your apparatus, the life cycle in your apparatus. We'll look at your overall condition. We'll look at the facilities that you currently use as part of the Middlesex Fire Service, and how the training is going. I understand that you have, I believe, around 118 volunteers plus your full-time contingent, as well as the size of the service. So we'll look at continuous improvement process, like again, the roadmap says, here's where we're going to go. We're going to look at your fire station location and see how you're deploying that. Are they well situated to provide the levels of service? Are they in good condition? Do they need to be replaced? Those types of things. We'll look at your recruitment, retention, your volunteers, and we'll benchmark against industry practices and the current legislative requirements that have been posted by the Fire Marshal. Regulation 37818 is identified there. Ultimately, the goal is to identify the needs of the community over the next 5-10 years, and which future decisions and priorities can be evaluated, and the risks and challenges, opportunities for improvement of emergency services, business, public safety, while considering municipal goals. See, one of the things we really look at is what is the fire service that the county can afford. We would all love to have fire and police on every corner of our communities to optimize public safety, as an example, but that's not realistic from a fiscal perspective. So what is those levels of service? Now, it'll serve as a guideline for the fire department leadership and council to make informed decisions. And again, assessing risk is it's not very easily quantifiable. So there will be some subjectivity that we'll put into it based on our experience and the various leading practices and standards we look at, because we can't definitively say that you're going to have this event and you need to equip to this level. We'll look at improved fire service for the residents, your operational efficiency, integrate systems and leverage data points. So we'll look at how your communication system is. Technology is very good for the fire service these days, where You know, there's things like predictive modeling and dynamic deployments, which uses algorithm, computer-based technology. One thing that uses a Bayesian inference, which basically, to the best possible, can quantify when a certain event would occur or given a period of time. We're going to look at your recruitment and the retention, you know, your what programs that you have to support your volunteers. We'll look at your cost sustainability, and we'll look at, as I was saying, the IT solutions to reduce staff time required and collect or digitize process records management, providing council with a report on a recurring basis that says, here's the objective of our response, and here's how we met it, here's where we haven't met it, and the reasons why. We're working collaboratively with our clients. We always take the solid partnership role with our clients so that we can work with them. Every time I do a risk assessment or a project like this, I learn something new about the fire service. So it's a kind of it's a 360 sort of process where we find out about you, but we learn from you as well. We conduct intense research with the stakeholders. Excuse me. Excuse me. And the outcome of our activities, we provide physically responsible, sustainable, evidence-based recommendations. That's what I meant when I was talking about this level of subjectivity. But the point is, to the best that we possibly do, is give this report, master plan, so that council can understand what are the risks that are in the community that require the fire service, and what levels that you need to mitigate those risks. Our consultation process, we've already started targeted interviews with key people, your station chiefs. We've always interviewed the fire chief, your fire prevention officer. We've conducted an online firefighter survey, and last week I think we had already around 40 responses to the survey, which was the fire chief was delighted that his team is looking at this and having their opportunity to provide input. We'll also look at comparative community analysis. We'll take a look at alike communities. Now, I always qualify this one because there's no two counties that operate the same, no two municipalities that operate the same way. So we have to use a little bit of discretion because we can't compare you directly with another municipality, but we can certainly look at those common denominators and say, you know, from a population perspective, here's what this county does, here's the cost per capita for your fire service, and you know, the area, response area, that type of thing. So when we look at it, we evaluate your community. We look at a lot of the factors of the community that start building the master plan. You can see here your development structure plans, your demographics growth, the utilities, your local government, what's the community profile? Is it an agricultural community? Is it industrial? Is it a mix of both? We look at your emergency management plans and your multi-jurisdictional requirements of cooperation. Who are you doing partnership with in complementary or joint services, those types of things like this. From the department, we look at your boundaries and historical response. We do a really deep dive on your statistics to see what are the types of emergencies you're responding to on a recurring basis. This again helps drive what the core services should be. We look at your, obviously, your financial performance. We look at fire prevention, public education. I've already talked about station and apparatus, your human resources, your training qualifications, health and wellness, the staffing level, leadership management, and the organization. Your technology, records, and data management will be all part of our review. Okay. We conduct what we call a SWOT analysis, not a SWOT, strengths, weakness, opportunities, challenges, and constraints. So we look at all those things. Part of our interview process, we actually ask your team members what the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and challenges are. And our targeted interviews, we give participants an opportunity to comment on the fire department and the service strengths and weaknesses and opportunities for so we say, okay, what's working, what's not working, and what would you do, what needs to change? And we identify these gaps, and then we coordinate those back or triangulate them back with quantitative data and research, leading practices, standards, regulations if possible. Like, for example, I know you have the firefighters, Province of Ontario Firefighters Health and Safety Guideline. We would look at those types of things. And we use the leading practices information to identify the gaps in risk and provide evidence-based recommendations. This is the phase of the project that we look at, and you can see the timeline there. We are currently in, I would say, in between phase 2 and 3 in terms of the engagement, the survey, and we're starting to gather the information from the fire chief. There's quite an extensive amount of documentation we ask from your fire chief so that we get a complete picture. Then we move into phase 4, which is the development of the community risk assessment and the master plan. And then we will present that, and I believe we'll present it to council in September once it's complete. And it's an iterative process where we keep the fire chief and his project team informed on each section as we go along. So in the end, when the complete document's there would be no surprises. And Madam Mayor, that's my presentation, and I'm prepared to take any questions, should there be any, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. I'll just wait to see. I can't see everyone. If somebody would like to I'll just wait till the screen goes back to full screen, and then I'll look for your hands. Well, maybe somebody want to speak?
Mayor. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I hear your voice, Councillor. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. How appropriate today is International Firefighters Day, and we have our presentation today. So thank you to everybody and for your service.
Thank you, Councillor Cates. Is there? Oh, Councillor Heffernan, go ahead.
Through Mayor DeVete to Jeff, the company is based in Calgary, or is that what you said? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, so are you able to attend in person on site here just to have a review in person on the fire stations and what have you?
Madam Mayor, I was remiss in, we also have an office in Kitchener. And the answer to the question is, we were face-to-face last week with 2 of our team members, and we will be in person whenever we can for a presentation or for, particularly for the fire service master plan and risk assessment. When the completed project, I'm assuming that we will be in front of council in person to deliver it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone else? I had one additional question, and maybe that's too early to even comment. I think it's more general than that, though. Growth is something we're seeing a lot of. I think that's happening in all provinces and to different extents and levels. I was wondering, when you were going through all the factors that you consider, and growth was the one you mentioned, how scalable is the report in the end? I mean, I guess growth is incremental over time, but in 5 and 10 years, there could be considerable difference from time 0. Do you have any comment, or is that something I should wait to hear about in the plan when you talk about specifics?
Madam Mayor, so in terms of the fire service and growth, we would most likely recommend that council adopt what we call a standard of cover, which identifies the services you provide and the levels. So what would happen is, over time, if your community population or risk increases, you would be able to measure against this standard. And you would say, oh, you know what, we've recognized this growth. It has increased our call volume. We need to add more fire stations, add more firefighters. Or it could be the other way around. You haven't achieved growth. You're making your service standards, so everything is working well. So that's the triggers. I'm anticipating that's where you wanted to know, is how can we, based on community growth, know when you're going to need more fire service or enhanced fire service or whatever the context is, but it's based on what we call standards of cover, which is a reading practice. And I would hope that council would entertain the idea of looking at that, because really it tells the fire chief, here's the level of service, here's the qualifications, here's the time increment for response. And usually it's expressed in like 80% 80 percentiles for a rural area. So very extensive answer to your question, but I think I got where you're heading.
I thank you for that. I'll look forward to getting all of the detail down the road. That helps put things in, some context for me. I don't see any hands. So I'm going to say thank you kindly for your presentation, Mr. Carlisle, and we'll look forward to seeing a document in the near future. Good luck with all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty then, we can now move on to the adoption of the minutes. The motion before us is that the minutes of the April 20th, 2022 meeting be adopted as printed. If I could have a mover, please, and a seconder. I see Councillor Scott and Councillor Cates. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. We have a consent agenda. There are items 6.1 through 6.5, so 5 items here. Is there anything anyone would like to comment on, ask about? Yes, Councillor Cates, go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to ask Rob a question about the Vision Zero.
Okay.
So
wait, maybe he'll come on and then he can hear the whole question. Sometimes I think in transition. There he comes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could I bother you to repeat that question, please?
Certainly I will. So on the Vision Zero, great to see this. So we are receiving this for information. I just wanted to make sure if I still, after this today, that I still have an opportunity for you and I to discuss maybe a couple of additions or what I'm thinking is, we had talked about this before and I just wanted to at least put it out there for, last year, we talked about getting a couple of speed bumps east of Jeffries between Jeffries and the park. And I believe that they were getting some new pavements, so we couldn't do that. So I just wanted to put it out there that if we had any opportunity to have some bumps added on Westbrook by the park.
Yep. So through Madam Mayor to Councillor Cates, yeah, we can certainly discuss further. This is kind of gives us the general intent for the year, and we are looking at purchasing some more speed cushions with the budget for this year. So depending on the timing of delivery, the hope would be to have further implementation this year. So
excellent. Thank you so much, Rob.
Welcome.
Any other questions for Rob or for anyone else on any of the items? Councillor Arts? No. Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw your hand and I thought it was okay. Seeing none, then the motion before us is that report. Oops, where'd it go? That item 6.1 through 6.5 listed under the heading of consent agenda for May 4th, 2020 be adopted as recommended. A mover, please, and a seconder. Councillor Cates, Councillor Heffernan. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands. That is carried then. Thank you. Okay, we can now move on to staff reports. We have 2 here today. The first item is the mobile food outlet bylaw, and I see Mr. Marsman here to present that report. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Council. I'm pleased to bring forward our mobile food outlet bylaw for your consideration this morning. This is not the first time Council has seen a draft of this bylaw. Last fall, staff brought a draft mobile food outlet bylaw to Council for consideration and received several valuable comments back. Following this meeting, staff met with a user group consisting of several members of the public and interest groups that felt they were impacted by the bylaw. At this meeting, it was clear to staff that these members felt their groups would be able and responsible to take care of the food trucks at their events, and that the bylaw was largely a duplication of their efforts. Following this meeting, staff concluded that the bylaw is primarily to deal with mobile food trucks which appear on commercial properties to sell to the public outside of special events and private events. So the bylaw before council today has a number of revisions which take these comments into account. Most significantly is that private special events would be exempt from the bylaw where the owner or operator signs a liability and indemnification agreement with the municipality. So I'll briefly summarize some significant revisions to the bylaw which brought concerns last year. Firstly, section 3.11 of the bylaw was revised to state the bylaw does not apply to approved special events where this indemnification agreement is in place. This generally would include the Ilderton Fair, other Ilderton Ag Society events, farm auctions, and farm barbecues. The operator has to sign off this indemnification agreement, and that would make them exempt from the bylaw. Section 3.10 of the bylaw exempts special events on municipal property where there's a facility rental agreement in place. And section 3.2 of the bylaw is in place. It states that the food outlets may not operate within the road allowance. A section 4.5 of the bylaw was added to provide clarity for produce stands on municipal property would be exempt from the bylaw as well, where there's written permission from the municipality. And this generally would include farmers markets. Finally, section 3.8 continues to provide that the bylaw does not apply to private events such as on-farm weddings, school celebrations, and church socials. So essentially the bylaw is set up or established for food trucks that want to establish themselves on commercial properties to sell to the public. And it also will apply to food trucks at special events where there's a refusal to sign an indemnification agreement. So I'm available to answer any questions to the staff report or to the bylaw.
Thank you, Arnie. I'll look to council for questions, comments. Yes, Councillor Heffernan. Wrong button.
Through the mayor to Arnie, yes, I'm very pleased to see this new bylaw. I think it sort of captured what the concerns were that we have, not so much private events, but like, for example, the fair, which is open to the public, but nevertheless, they have a very good committee that already checks all this stuff out. And so, you know, as they mentioned, it was a duplication in a sense. But anyway, I'm glad to see that it's been revised, and I think you've captured everybody's comments in making adjustments where they could be made. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll go to Councillor Cates.
Madam Mayor, to Arnie, I just want to say I agree with Councillor Heffernan, and thank you for this, Arnie. Thanks for listening and bringing a pardon me. Sorry, bringing a group together. So I just have one question. Has some of the key people in the groups, have they seen this already?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Cates. A draft of this bylaw was circulated to all the members that attended that meeting about 2 weeks ago. And I've not received any comments back, any negative comments.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else? And I'll add my thanks and congratulations to staff too. I think so many different scenarios to consider and different layers of sort of intensity and timelines and commitments and experience in running things. So I think, as you say, this is a well done piece, and it covers all of the possibilities. I suppose something else could come up, but I think there's enough there that'll guide anyone who needs to have clarification with respect to their specific items. So thank you to staff for that. And the motion before us is that report BLD 03-2022 regarding the mobile food outlet bylaw be received, and that council approve the mobile food outlet bylaw attached as Appendix A, and further that the municipality's fees and charges bylaw be amended to include fees relating to this bylaw. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Heffernan, and anyone opposed to this? I don't see any hands. That is carried. Thank you, Arnie. And we'll now move to, I see Rob's already here. the 2022 Sidewalk Program.
Yep. Good morning, Council. So through Madam Mayor to Council, so I'll give a quick overview of the report. Our 2022 Sidewalk Program is a continuation of multiple years of this program with the replacement of existing sidewalk and expansion of new sidewalk into key locations within the municipality. So in 2021, staff undertook a sidewalk and streetlight survey with residents to get residents input on where they saw the most desired locations for the expansion of sidewalk, as we were reaching a point where our replacement of undersized sidewalk was coming to an end. By the end of this year, or assuming this moves forward, we will have replaced nearly all undersized sidewalk and have nearly everything up to our AODA standards. So we did receive substantial feedback from the survey in 2021, and staff reviewed that. We did continue in the 2022 budget process, carried a budget item again for the replacement and expansion of sidewalk for $150,000. So we have now gone through using the survey as a guide. We have identified locations for the expansion of sidewalk again within our communities. We are proposing to replace some undersized sidewalk in Delaware and remove a couple sections of sidewalk in Bryanston and Melrose where they don't really connect to anything. They have been put in, well, Bryanston, I'm not even sure what the date was when that was put in, but it's in poor shape. It hasn't been maintained in the winter in quite some time. So we're proposing that is removed and not replaced. The section in Melrose is a connection from Van Eck Road into the interior road, but there's no internal or external sidewalk for it to connect to. And again, it's kind of removed from the other centers where winter maintenance occurs. So in addition to the replacement of the 1.2 meter wide sidewalk with a 1.5 meter wide sidewalk in Delaware, we're also proposing to expand the connecting links within Camoga. Again, this is not, I know some of the comments we've received back is that some people feel like there's not a benefit in the locations that are provided, but this is a longer term goal of continuing to build the interconnectedness of the streets and the sidewalk infrastructure to be able to connect the various parts of Camoga and eventually Kilworth once we have Glendon Drive connection east to west along there as well. So at the time of the report, Andrew had heard back from, I believe it was about 13 residents. And since then he's heard back from about another 4. Some people in favor of the expansions, some people not in favor of either the expansions with concern of how it's going to affect their front yards, or some people not in favor of the removal of the sidewalk in Bryanston. I don't believe there was any comment back from Melrose. We will certainly work with residents to minimize any impact along the front yards. I think one of the more challenging areas will be locations where there's not currently a urban cross section, and there's small roadside ditches in some of the older sections of Camoga. But certainly those are places where we will work closely with the residents and try to make sure that the sidewalk is the best fit to the existing conditions. So we're currently, we had circulated letters to all the affected residents notifying of what's being proposed. They have not yet received construction letters. We've held off sending those out until after council has an opportunity to see these locations. And so we're seeking to receive endorsement from council for this plan, after which we would then go back to residents and send them construction letters notifying them of the timeline for construction. So at this point, I'm happy to ask or answer any questions if there's questions about why certain locations were chosen or any concerns that have been raised.
Okay, I'll start with you, Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Rob. Rob, I also had a phone call from the Bryanston area yesterday, as a matter of fact, concerning taking their sidewalk out along Highbury Ave. Their concern was that if people that do walk down that to go to the community center or whatever would then have to walk on the road. And I certainly don't think people walking, pushing a baby carriage or anything else down Highbury Ave is a good thing, simply because of the amount of traffic and speed through Bryanston. As you know, people complain about speed everywhere, but certainly through there also. I'm not sure how bad the sidewalk is, but if we could maybe put a pause on that one for a bit, just to take another look at it. I'm not sure how many people use it, but certainly if there are some that use it and would be forced to use Highbury Ave to get down from one area to another, I'm not sure that's a function that we want to see. So I'm not sure what your comment is there, Rob, and I'm not sure what you want to do about it. But that would be, just a consideration anyways. Thank you.
Yep. So through Madam Mayor, back to Deputy Mayor. Certainly we can pause on that one and go back and revisit. So there's multiple reasons with that section of sidewalk. The condition is poor. If there's sidewalk that's going to remain in Bryanston, that section should be replaced. And then technically it should be maintained in the wintertime as well, which has not occurred in the past. We believe it to have very limited use. It only runs about, I'm not sure if it's maybe 300 meters or so north to south. There's no connections east to west. It doesn't run south to the new lots, and it's not identified. Some of these smaller communities are not identified as having sidewalk within the official plan. So we can service all these smaller communities. It's a question of whether or not it makes operational sense to do so, given the limited usefulness, I guess, in these locations. So, but certainly we can pause this and have further discussion for this area.
Any other?
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Cates.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Rob. So just to clarify, from the sidewalk and streetlight survey that was done, I kind of understand it that over time you will be, filling in, joining things, etc. So what's in this report is just a snippet of future things, and it doesn't include, I'm going to just pick a name, for example, Queen Street. I think that it was a high winner on needing a sidewalk. So that's a different scenario really than what we're talking about today. It doesn't mean anything's off the list. This is just a little bit of infill.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Cates, that's correct. This will be an ongoing process to continue to infill sidewalk. So for example, Duke Street was selected because we've had a number of comments about children walking from Caber Hill in that area out to Kamoka Road, right? And there was no sidewalk connection connecting Kamoka Road. So
yeah, I think that you've picked some good spots. Maybe not so much in front of my house, but that's okay. I'll be a team player.
Appreciate it.
So, and in front of the seniors, that was nice as well. So what happens if, because I've received feedback as well, and so there's one stretch that there's basically two houses. Well, there's three locations in that one block, and there isn't any sidewalks kind of anywhere else, but you said it's for infill. But what happens if all the people there are in disagreement for it? They don't want it, they think it's a waste, etc. What's the process then?
So this is similar to what we had occur last year in one area, which was part of the reason why we went out with the streetlight and sidewalk survey, because we know that it's not only the people that front onto those, onto the sidewalk that benefit from it. It's there's certainly other people in the neighborhood that will utilize the sidewalk, and sometimes it's people just out for walks or people trying to get from point A to point B. So that's what we want to gauge the interest or the desire to have sidewalk expansion beyond those not wanting to have it physically in front of their house. So this is part of the reason why we've come to council for endorsement of these locations. And if council wishes us to go back and revisit or remove certain sections that are slated for expansion at this time, then we can certainly do that.
Well, so that's what I was wondering. For example, I just got to get the Delaware by St. Clair and St. Lawrence. So that one, for example, it's my understanding that two of the people that front there, they don't want it. And then the third location, the old church on the corner, which, I think we're talking about this morning, I believe. I read something, the public notice, so it'll be coming up soon. They want to turn the church into 3 apartments. So we're going to have 3 apartments on one corner, a resident in the middle, and then another person on the corner, but he fronts St. Lawrence. So I received a letter, which I'm sure you've seen as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in favor, and he said that the next door neighbors weren't as well. So I just said that hopefully the next door neighbors submit their input as well. So are you relying on us to say, don't do that section, or we're, accepting this report here, and then you'll deal with the logistics of your bigger picture plan?
Essentially the intent is that if council endorses these locations, that we would move forward with implementation. We would certainly consult the residents and try to work with them. But this is, again, because we know that some residents will be opposed because some will be because it shortens their driveway, some because it's going to impact the look of their front yard. But if council endorses moving forward with it, then we would move forward with the implementation, knowing that there's a larger benefit than just the opposition of some residents. If that makes sense. It's certainly we can defer sections, but if we defer sections because people don't want it for one reason or another, we're going to continue to end up with a patchwork of sidewalk implementation, right?
That's where today we see your plan. But
mm-hmm.
but you also know the bigger plan of how that'll all fit together. And so that's where it makes it hard. If we just say, yes, go ahead, but then hopefully you'll be working with the people that you need to, which I'm sure you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will work to minimize any disturbance in the right of way as far as tree removals or anything like that. Like ideally the sidewalk will go in standard location to allow for future road reconstruction without disturbance. But most of these streets in Kamoka, they're not shown for reconstruction in the short term, right? And they could be 20 years before they're reconstructed. So to wait another 20 years to implement sidewalk is not desirable from staff's perspective.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Councillor Shipley.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, to Rob, just to add on to what Deputy Mayor Bryan said, Rob, if we were to replace the sidewalk in Bryanston, are we obligated to maintain it during the winter months?
We should be either maintaining it or posting it as closed. I guess that would be the other option, is that we'd have to have sufficient signage to notify people that it is not being maintained through the wintertime.
Yeah, because I think trying to maintain that would be just about unbelievable with county plows up and down that road and a heavy snow load. So I guess, yeah, if we do go ahead with it, I'd be in favor of that. It's posted and not cleared. It's just be an added expense just to keep heading back up there 3 or 4 times a day to open that sidewalk up.
Yeah, so again, that's one that with the endorsement of the other locations, we can certainly defer the removal of that until there's further discussions, if that's desirable.
Yeah, that sounds good with me.
Okay, Councillor Case.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Rob, and it's totally not my area at all, although my sister lives right there too. But I've walked on that sidewalk before, and I know that there's an old church there that's not a church, and so maybe many years ago the sidewalk was there because it was a church. I get that it's really old, and but I also understand that some people prefer that there be a sidewalk there. So I'm just thinking, if you think about Bryanston, overhead view, for example, the sidewalk is on the left side of the road and the community center is down the road. So there's more houses along the right-hand side of the road. So would a sidewalk be more appropriate if you were going to be on the right-hand side of the road, where more people could use it and then turn the corner and go to the community center? I'm just throwing a thought out there. Versus the left side with one little piece that goes to nowhere and starts at nowhere.
Yeah, certainly if we were looking at replacing it, we could look to see if there's a better location. I believe it's there's hydro poles on the west side that limit the ability to move it away from the county road. Moving it to the east side of the road, there'd be grading challenges with the ditching along there, I believe, but certainly it's possible. So again, we could take a further look at it.
Thank you. It was just a thought, just a random thought. You're the engineer and you're the expert. I just thought I would throw that out there. Thank you.
Councillor Arts.
Through your mayor to Rob, we've had some issues in Bryanston trying to define where the hamlet boundary is. So to install a new sidewalk before we define what the hamlet boundaries are, I would at least wait until that was defined. Thank you.
What was it? I think, is it $41 a square meter? I'm not sure that it would be going in this year, Councillor Arts. I think the budget is probably used up as far as a new sidewalk in Bryanston is concerned.
That was my intent, was just to say that there's some issues in Bryanston that have to be resolved before we do anything. So
yeah. Okay. I don't see any other hands. So we do have a motion before us that report PWE 2022 regarding the 2022 sidewalk program be received and that council endorse the 2022 sidewalk program. Do I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Heffernan, and no one's opposed. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I just want to
make a comment. Right. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just I would move to pass that, subject to adding that the Bryanston one be deferred for now and the rest be approved.
Okay, so the motion as amended, and the clerk will correct me if I mess up here, is that the sidewalk program information be received and that we endorse the 2022 sidewalk program with the exception of the area in Bryanston. He's nodding. Okay, so is anyone opposed to that motion? Oh, do I have to have another seconder for that, or can we just keep the same seconder?
Through the chair, you can keep the same seconder.
Okay. I thought that said keep the seconder. It was a little echoey. So no one's opposed and that motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, there are no notices of motion. We have a number of correspondence items, 6 of them. Is there anything there that anyone would like to comment on, ask about, highlight? I don't see any hands. We have a motion before us that council for the municipality of Middlesex Centre receives the correspondence items 10.1 through 10.6 as information. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Shipley, Councillor Cates. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. I'll look to Deputy Mayor Brennan for an update on council from the last time we had it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did have a meeting on April 26th. First, we had a report, very interesting report on the pediatric neonatal ambulance that the province is funding for us. From March 21 to March 22, it went on 854 calls, an average of 2.3 calls per day. Each call lasts approximately 2 hours and 29 minutes. Over 98,000 kilometers driven, over 1,500 hours of driving time. It is fully funded by the province. There were 23 times that calls were stacked. In other words, the ambulance was out on a call and there's another one waiting for it to get to. this covers a wide area. Like they could be down in Windsor. They could go to Hamilton to pick up a patient to take to Toronto. It's a very highly specialized ambulance with the people trained in pediatric care. So it's being well used. The province is continuing to fund it. And as time goes forward, there may be a need for a second one, the amount of times this thing's getting used. So that was a very interesting report. I noticed a motion from Councillor Mayor Smith of Adelaide Metcalfe to allow colored crosswalks on county roads. There will be a report coming back to us. He brought that notice of motion forward at the last meeting. And so there will be a report coming back, what's going to be allowed on county roads and what's not going to be allowed on county roads. The Western Ontario Wardens Conference had a workforce strategy. They talked to 15 upper tier and 300 communities. The need to attract more workers 25 to 55 years of age needs to be addressed. They're looking at it in phase 1 as a background study, phase 2 as a consultation analysis. And then in phase 3, they'll look at for strategies and implementation to try to get more people in that age group working in this area. Approximately 14,000 county residents work in London. 4,750 Middlesex Centre residents work in London. In the next decade, there's going to be about 60% more workers needed. So the opportunity for us to try to get some businesses in our area to try to keep people in our area working in this area is something we're looking at. If anybody's interested, the website is www.workforcestrategy.wowc.ca. So if anybody wants to go to that, take another closer look at it, they can. Select Path benefits. There's a 47% increase in long-term disabilities in the county. There's a 9.1% increase in premiums to that program. Excuse me. KPMG accountants for the county, their final report will be coming to County Council on June 28th. The new website for the county is being worked on and bringing up to speed. New communications, new strategic initiatives on that. The HVAC system for Strathmere Lodge received a $2.2 million grant from the province to upgrade that, which will strive to keep the air fresher and that and exchange it more in the Strathmere Lodge for the health of the residents. Bill 109 is a bill that's more homes for everybody. They're trying to make changes to the zoning bylaws and approvals and timelines so that things are a lot quicker and can be accomplished and get them through quicker. $885,000 modernization fund is going towards payroll, HR, and time and attendance stuff. And just a quick reminder again, on June 23rd, which is fast coming up, is the Warden's Golf Tournament. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions for the deputy on that? Okay. And the county does have a new website too. So I think if you go to look at it, you'll find that it feels a lot like ours. And if you want more details, you can always scoot over there and check out the content online. All righty, then. There is no other business, or is there any other business, I should ask? I don't see any hands. So we have the bylaws then, and the motion before us is that the bylaws, wait a minute, 2020, is number 44 amended, but not approved?
Through the chair to members of council, it is approved as per the report by the chief building official earlier this morning.
Okay, all right. It was amended, but it hasn't been approved. That's Right, got it. So those are listed before you. Then the motion is that bylaws 2022, number 44 through 47 be adopted as printed. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates. Councillor Shipley. Anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. And now we'll have the motion for adjournment that the Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns today's meeting at 10:16 a.m. So until this evening then, everyone, enjoy your day. Thank you.